Morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the MPC Markets Morning Call, 9th of April, 2026. Stocks have absolutely rocketed. This all came to light as we just finished the morning call yesterday, pretty much live towards the end. For those of you who listened, we were watching oil prices just absolutely plummet. Oil ended up down, around about 16 or 17%. It came off its lows at 92 in WTI, currently sitting at 97, up around about 0.5% recently. So as it sort of it panned out kind of, I wouldn't say exactly as I said it would pan out, but it was very similar. So Trump's essentially given the proxy, the TACO proxy to the Pakistani Prime Minister. He requested a ceasefire. Trump then immediately had a press conference after accepting that ceasefire. I think it was still like 4 a.m. or whatever in Iran. So I don't know whether, and then Iran's just gone, well, everyone thinks there's a ceasefire. Here's our 10 points, our 10-point plan. Trump said, yeah, we'll work on it. And the entire of America and Western media have gone, okay, we're done. It's apparently it's all over. So, as we know with the Middle East, very unlikely for it to be over. But what has significantly dropped is these numbers here. So we're at 300 or 400 from the US and Israel, and this number particularly with the US and Iran's. Because there's 5, but there are now kind of. There's arguments around whether Lebanon was included in this. So 250 people have died from attacks from the Israelis on Lebanon overnight. The original deal was that Lebanon was included in the ceasefire, and Israel's now saying it wasn't. Israel wasn't really. I think this was not even a ceasefire. No one really agreed to a ceasefire. Trump, I got to give the guy credit. This was just genius maneuvering, because he essentially got Pakistani Prime Minister to ask for a ceasefire, the country he's not even in a conflict with. He's accepted it, and Trump, full well knowing the Western media would say, well, Pakistan's speaking to Iran. Iran wasn't awake to even respond very quickly. And then he's been pretty so it's gone, the 10-point plan or 10-point proposal from Iran is it's a starting point, which technically it is. So either Trump's like a mad genius, or he is the best at chaos, or whatever. But either way, we are better off effectively with these numbers at 0 and 5 than we were yesterday when it was at 300 or 400 and well into the hundreds. So, and we had, as you can see here, these attacks, they were just, it was escalating well above the averages. We did see an attack on on some of the pumping stations for the Saudi Arabia East-West pipeline, which goes across this part here. If that gets taken out, it's trouble. Traffic has not really, there's no definitive numbers on how much whether traffic's resumed in Hormuz. And just on social media last night, it was just frightening in terms of the Iranians absolutely blitzed social media and just took the piss out of Trump really hard, mocking him massively. They used his own tactics against him and said that he'd agreed to things that he clearly hasn't agreed to. And in terms of, if you announce it, then it makes it the other guy, the bad guy, for, he's going to argue to take the point away. And it's a pretty much a propaganda masterclass going on here at the moment for, a modern day version, where they're just, they're very clearly using, media on both sides. But stock market just didn't care. They were just like, any progress is good progress. The futures were effectively back to, this is the 10-point plan here. We've got if you've got Mosaic, and if you don't, go get it. It's free. But we've got this probability thing. Gave the timeline of yesterday. The likelihoods of what will probably be agreed to, what won't be. percentage chances of that, and then the 10-point plan and the percentage chance of if any of these will be, look, the best ones, Hormuz Strait being reopened and a toll being charged. And that was 60% yesterday. But Trump came out last night and said he's happy with that as long as the US gets a cut. I don't know in what world he thinks he's entitled to it, or whether the Iranians would ever agree to it. But look, I mean, the main thing, I don't think stock markets, and this is a bit of a harsh comment, but stock markets don't care about the Middle East, particularly US stock markets. They care about themselves and they care about their investments and that strait being opened. Once that strait's open and traffic resumes to normal, in the blink of an eye, you will just see the global investors just forget about this whole situation. I think there'll be a bit of a tail risk in terms of inflation, because we're still, as you can see in the previous slide, we're still like 40 days from normal. But as I say, bit of genius play from Trump. He's managed to save face, make Pakistan, basically squeeze Pakistan, which is either the worst affected or the second worst affected country in the world in terms of the Strait of Hormuz being closed and they've run out of fuel, etc. And he's managed to get that done. But I categorically didn't see it coming. I knew he had some moves left in him, and he's a genius at these sort of situations, which is why we sold. I didn't know why. I knew that he was going to pull something, which is why we got out of half of our oil position a couple of days ago. Didn't see that coming, but it was just that hunch that he was going to pull something out of the bag. Apart from the energy stocks getting hit and Palantir getting hit. But I mean, what else is there to say? Just green on the screen. But money being sucked out of the defensive stocks, just back into the stuff. I mean, you could pretty much just flip the colours, the red green colours, and or run the Chinese version of this, and that's it's a flip side of what we've been witnessing for the last couple of weeks. We are coming into earnings next week. We're going to start with the banks, and there is just a fair bit more talk about about earnings and how they're still going to be solid, how the US economy is solid. So realistically, whether the Iran and Hormuz situation sort of drags on, in investors' minds, it's like done. And basically, unless oil goes back to $110, $115, as far as the equity market is concerned, it was just that problem that happened back in February, March. As you can see, technicals have just wildly turned around. I mean, at the highs last night in futures for the S&P, we were under 3% from record highs, and we were actually up since the conflict started, albeit very, very slightly. So, make of that what you will, but we've still got oil up roughly 60% since the start of the conflict. Natural gas still way up. Obviously gold and silver have pulled back a little bit. You're probably looking at about 0.5% to 1% of global inflation being added by the time the strait gets reopened. Massive disruptions. But bond yields going up 30, 40 basis points. They've drifted back a little bit now, but it's really from the Fed minutes last night, they were genuine, which I was really alarmingly surprised at. Was hikes were on the table. They were really worried about inflation, so that shocked the hell out of me. To be honest, whether it's just Jerome Powell trying to screw with Trump's head while he's distracted is another matter. But if he is, well played as well. But yeah, so the equity market, realistically, with where everything else is probably the outlier. Whether the rest of the market comes to them or whether the equity market pulls back is a different matter. We did a bit of an overlay yesterday, and this is a pretty crude overlay of the 2020 to 2022. This was the COVID drop, and then the elongated rally out, and then we had that roll off. and then it bounced back through. And I'm going to put my hand up here. I got stung by this move. I thought I was a genius getting out here, and then I really got suckered into buying here before we had that next leg down. And like I say, when I say this is crude, obviously the 2022 one's quite a bit longer in time frame, etc. But quite similar, long-term patterns in terms of 2025, 26 is Liberation Day, elongated. Probably a bit more of a sideways movement, but we're going through the 200 and 100-day moving averages. So, maybe we go and look, and this is where markets are here now. So, I mean, look, if you're looking at this sort of similarities here, maybe it'll pop back above the top line and retest and probably fake some people out. As my learned colleague JT always mentions, nothing much generally happens over earnings. We tend to stay a little bit stable. You'd expect some of these software companies to bounce back because they all got slaughtered just after earnings, and their earnings aren't really going to be affected by AI just yet. But we would start talking about earnings plays. But I think this, if we can get some peace and quiet for a couple of weeks, maybe one or two decent earnings reports or whatever. I think people are just going to get that vacuum's going to suck people back in, and then maybe this next leg happens. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not willing to call it this. Trying to call anything beyond like the next 2 hours is hard enough at the moment. Stick with your high conviction themes, your high conviction companies that have got tailwinds for like 2 to 3 years. Get some fixed coupons and get some income and just be a little less stressed, I'd say. It would be my general advice. But if you actually tack this 2022 move onto this current chart, that's what it's going to kind of look like. 6,100 was my first kind of target in the S&P. Obviously never got there. But we'll see. Maybe it's me seeing things and a little bit of cognitive bias, but who knows? I'm pretty shocked that we're up here, as it stands at the moment. But it's the way it is. And Trump's highest priority, before America, is making sure the stock market stays up there. There were some more suspicious trades in crude. $980 million notional position was taken on short in crude oil leading into yesterday's move, which, that Barron Trump kid's he's an incredible trader. And then you're not particularly worried about being indicted for insider trading. When your dad can pardon you. So look, gold and silver obviously continue to recover a little bit. Copper and platinum, particularly, I mean, they got belted a hell of a lot more. Again, you flip this chart upside down, it's the reverse of recent times. I think lithium's, I think those critical minerals are going to start to do very well as we focus back on the fact that I think Goldman's released a report overnight basically saying, the picks and shovels of the AI and the data center plays is still one of their strongest themes. We totally agree. We did that hyperscalers 6 months ago. I think you'll start to see these critical minerals and copper and things like aluminium, etc. People will start to see the forest for the trees, and then the US dollar will just continue its decline due to the fact that it's it's just a credit risk essentially. I certainly wouldn't lend the US money, but they've got the advantage of having having that military. So this outlines up next week, obviously with the banks. From all reports, everyone's sort of saying financials should do okay. Netflix will be one of the big ones towards Friday. But yeah, and then we'll kick into the hyperscalers coming into the following week after that. So who knows? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. I would have thought that tariff uncertainty on Iran, uncertainty and geopolitical, because we had the Venezuela situation and Greenland and God knows what. Maybe business leaders are a little bit nervous, but aside from that. And if you want a portfolio review, scan the QR code, jump on board, and we'll get those done. They've been really popular. We're probably only going to run this free thing for the rest of this week and next week, because we're getting a little bit overburdened with it, and we've got to be conscious of tokens with these things, and when we're running it. But scan the code and get in now, and grab Mosaic and keep up to date. I mean, through this whole thing, we've been really stats dependent and played it. I mean, as best you can play it, kind of thing. Hasn't been any major. Our job's to play defense mainly for our clients who are investing in the long term. We're not traders, so seeing the forest for the trees on these stats kept everyone in pretty good stead. Albeit we probably should have got on oil a little bit earlier, but we managed to get on and take a little win and hedge the portfolios out. So could be back to normal. We'll wait and see. Everyone except the US has breached this ceasefire about 200 times. So. But that's just how the Middle East does ceasefires, to be honest. I don't know whether maybe it doesn't translate well in Arabic. I don't know. But have a great day, guys. SPY was probably looking at being down about 25 odd points. And we'll speak again tomorrow.
Feeling lost with investing? Meet Mosaic. Mosaic is MPC Markets' platform that turns confusing markets into clear, actionable guidance for your portfolio. Discover Mosaic today. Portfolio and trade ideas in one place for clients and subscribers, powered by MPC Markets.